all just got off of reading the most incredible Martin Scorsese article, though, and honestly,
Holy shit!
Yeah, I kind of had a similar reaction, a holy shit reaction.
I read it last night when it dropped, and I kept halfway through. I was like, I love him.
You read this last night, and you didn't let me know it existed until this morning.
That's
what
a
kind of
burn.
a friend are you?
Well, it was 11 o'clock at night. I should have realized that you were up probably
We don't
doing
go to sleep
research
early.
for. Also, I was reading it, and my fiance said, "Are you on your phone again?" And I said, "Yes, but this is work." And she said, "I don't fucking care." And I went, "Let me
Strong
finish
woman.
this." And I finished, and she went, "I hope it was worth it." And I said, "It was."
Ask me
somewhat.
if you got laid last night.
I did not, though.
Yeah, I was going to say
Probably
no.
because of Martin Scorsese. Scorsese.
Well, you could have had angry sex though. But anyway.
Yeah, that's a
past
bummer.
that.
That's a
That's
bummer
fun,
that
too.
you didn't get laid, but at least you got to read a pretty awesome piece in the New York
It's not like
Times.
he was reading it while he was getting laid.
That
He-
would have
he
been
could
worse.
have.
I could have.
That's some Dr. Manhattan stuff going on right now. Yo,
Speaking of Dr. Manhattan,
Watchmen references.
Yeah.
this particular episode especially
Creepy.
big,
Awesome.
big blue Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's the dong. Just say it. Big
Wait,
blue
Did
dong.
we see the dong in this one?
No, we saw the dong
two.
last one.
Well, I don't want to spoil it,
But
but,
it
we
wasn't-
did see something related that was pretty good.
No, we only saw the
enjoyed
dong in
that.
episode 2.
Well, wait, the end of episode 3 has
that
something
dong,
fun.
da dong, dong, dong.
Yes.
Darina, I know
Make
that
it
you.
big.
What?
Make it big.
If you're gonna do it, make it big.
Make it big.
So, for anybody who didn't read this, Martin Scorsese, obviously nobody who watches the show has been living under a rock, had comments about Marvel. At this point, I'm going to say a month ago.
Yeah.
It might have honestly been a month ago.
Felt like 20 years.
Saying that it was not cinema.
I feel like we've been talking about this for a year. So yes.
Forever. And then not only did Martin Scorsese talk about it, but Francis Ford Coppola and anybody who's ever been in the industry at all in any capacity
Right.
also weighed in because that's what we
Which
do.
makes sense because movies, superhero movies specifically, are the new blockbusters, right? We used to have a bunch of blockbusters back in the day, the Jurassic Parks of the world, the Josses. Now we just have superhero movies that are blockbusters, and I think that's interesting, and that's what the industry's changing, which is why this conversation's happening.
Right, exactly. And so Scorsese has kind of clarified previously, but now he's taken the time to really be like, hold up, this has gotten way out of control. Here's what I actually meant.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for in general because I feel like he could have not written this and been like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really care what the
Because
people
that's
think
what
that I
old,
think.
old Donnie Berets is doing. Because
Right.
he's not saying a word.
I mean, come on,
moved
man.
on with
You
his
can't
life.
just
Yeah.
nickname Francis Ford Coppola Donnie Berets.
Why?
Because
I mean,
Roxy,
you can do whatever
he
you
popped-
want,
he
He
but
popped some wine and he went, fuck him.
mostly because no one will know who you're talking
I know.
Oh, okay.
about.
How about Frankie Berets?
No.
That's better.
Francis
Closer.
Ford
we just call
Berets?
him Marty.
Francis
Francis
Beret
Berets.
Opala.
But wait, did you guys? Okay, so when the first statement that happened, were you guys on his side a little bit? Like, I'm curious as to like how you guys feel about this after reading his opinion piece versus initially, because I know Josh is still on the same.
No, I'm
page.
thinking of funny names for Francis Ford Coppola, and then I said
Obviously,
Francis
what Josh
Ford.
is doing.
That's obviously why would you be thinking about?
Let-
Why would you be listening to me? Of
No,
course,
hold
you're
on.
coming up with puns.
Let his process happen.
It's
Is
an
what I'm
artistic
saying.
process. You know who would appreciate this? Marty. Marty would like what you're doing right now. But I think it's a great question,
It's
Darina.
art. It's art, Darina. It's art.
Because
My
while-
punning is art.
While Josh is thinking, I will say that when he initially said this, because of who he is, I kind of thought it was funny. Mm-hmm. And
Me too.
I was not offended. I was not hurt. I kind of thought, duh, he thinks that. I'm not shocked that he thinks
No.
that.
Right.
And I like that in the op-ed, he starts by saying, listen, if I grew up in a different time, I probably would have died to make these types of movies. It would be a completely different beast. But it's not who I am, and it's not how I was raised, and it's not the time in which I grew up. So I don't feel that way about
Right.
them. So he is acknowledging, you're not stupid for feeling the way you guys feel.
This is just how I feel.
This is just how I feel.
Listen, he is, and I think a lot of people are going to take from this op-ed, in the New York Times no less, is that he is bashing Marvel again. And what he is actually saying, in my opinion, is that the studio system for him is broken. For art, for people making movies, it's a bigger issue than just Marvel. Marvel is just the example he's using to kind of talk about why and how films are being made, excuse me, and why ultimately I think he went to Netflix with The Irishman.
Yeah, frankly, it didn't seem to have much to do with Marvel. Dee, what do you think?
I mean, I love the part, and I wrote it down because I loved it. He basically is talking about how he feels like these movies do show things that he considered exciting when he was growing up and watching movies, right? But
No, go ahead.
But-
Sorry.
but-
I didn't mean to do the wash. That was my bad on that.
wash. But
Pause for a second. Yo, if you care
that's
about me
right.
at all, you'll make a wash gift. Just saying. Continue. Thank you.
wash. So yes, he actually admits that the filmmakers behind these movies are obviously artists, and they're he credits their hard
Talented.
work. Like nobody disagrees with that, right? But he also thinks that nothing is at risk in these movies, right? Compared to the North by Northwest, Ingmar Bergman's movies, like compared to those movies that he grew up with, he specifically said these pictures are made to satisfy a specific set of demands, and they are designed as variations of a finite number of themes. They are sequels in name, but they are remakes in spirit. And I completely agree with that. And that's been actually I'm glad he said that, because that's been my issue with these movies. I love superhero movies. I grew up reading comic book movies. I love
You read comic book movies?
comic books. I love all of that stuff
Feisty
when I
Josh
was a kid.
today.
He's just pissed at Martin Scorsese.
I'm not.
He just came up with his pun and is ready to say it.
No, I'm
exactly.
not. I can't. I said Francis Ford Barapola, and that's wrong. That
You can't be a Barapola.
No.
You're
It
starting
doesn't. That's why I
rumors
was
now.
laughing to myself. I'm like, that's not gonna work.
Drina, I'm still with you though.
Anyway, so yeah,
Wash.
so my point is that it's frustrating for me because I love the Doctor Stranges, I love Logan, but I didn't love Infinity War. I didn't love Civil War. I know everybody loves these movies, but I was a little bit bored watching these. The spectacle of it visually is really cool. I love watching my heroes come to life that I read as a kid, but I feel like a lot of the story is drowned out by the action-packed sequences, and the character death just wasn't there for me as it was for other people.
What I got more from this article is that he knows there's a lot of theaters in this country, overseas in general, that will play one movie. They'll have one big movie, or that's what the big ticket is. That's what's on the marquee. That's what's being advertised. And as long as these huge superhero movies exist, that's the movie.
Right.
There's not room as much for the smaller movies, the art house movies, even bigger movies that are not franchise movies, that are not tentpole movies,
Right.
but still are different, unique stories, don't have a chance as long as we're in a society where it is Marvel, Star Wars, DC. Those are the titles on the billboards.
We live in a society. I
And
agree.
while you guys know, and you guys make sure to remind me all the time, I love DC. I love DC.
Yeah.
I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. I love all these things because I,
love Lamp.
also. I love Lamp.
love Lamp.
I love Lamp because I also
one, Josh.
grew up reading comic books and loving all things that were nerdy and geeky, and didn't have a way to celebrate that because if I brought a comic book to school, I would get picked on, and I was already a chubby kid who had very little friends who people threw shit at. So I
Right,
didn't
right.
want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I get to be cool.
Yeah.
And people get to think that it's cool that I know more things about DC than some people.
Yeah.
Like that's feels good for me.
Yeah.
And so while I see what he's saying, I see both sides of it. And I think that he probably does too.
Yeah.
He's saying, if you like this, if you don't like this, it's just hard with the way the industry is going to make independent films.
Yeah, I really got that for go Josh, because
Go ahead.
I really
Barapey again or a real comment?
No, I got a good one.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. Who fucking knows?
wait, Cody, did you say you got a good one? What?
No, Roxy said that.
Oh, okay. But now I want you to go.
No, okay, fine.
Now you have to do it.
All right,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I'm always so down the middle on everything. Like, I like the Marvel movies. They're fine. Ken Knapsack and I both very much agree that it's the same movie every time.
Which is Marty's point.
It's kind of what
It
Marty's
is,
saying,
right?
yeah.
But a lot of movies are the same thing every time. You start out, everything is good, everything goes bad, everything good. Like, that's how most movies are, except for Inside Llewyn Davis. Again, I brought that up before. The movie's so stupid. Okay.
Well, I feel like you're talking about there's kind
Have
of
you
like-
ever watched Inside Llewyn Davis?
Yes.
The movie
Yeah.
just ends.
Hold on, you're saying that
There's nothing.
the only movie that doesn't go like that on the planet is Inside Llewyn Davis.
Kind of. Kind of. Except for Infinity War, because you knew there was going to be a second one.
Can you
Everybody
write-
was dust, and then all of a sudden, Tony Stark's like, I invented time travel! I got it!
Wait, I'm
Can you write an opinion
honestly,
piece?
Yes.
I'm honestly
On Inside
confused
Llewyn
though.
Davis?
Loop me back around. So get me back full
got it.
circle.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So Martin Scorsese ends this article by saying, "For anyone who dreams of making movies or who's just starting out, the situation at this moment is brutal and inhospitable to art. And the act of simply writing those words fills me with terrible sadness."
Yeah.
Okay, Marty, listen. Art house pictures sometimes kind of funk and blow. Okay, like they're not the best.
To you, though.
I am the main audience. You are selling movies to me. You're selling action movies to me. I am middle America. I am not the film geek. I am not
Pittsburgh.
the cinephile.
Yeah.
So, Pittsburgh is middle effing America. Okay? If you're
Please write down in the comments where Pittsburgh is.
Pittsburgh is it's right between Midwest and the East Coast. No, it's considered Midwest to a lot of people. It's
No
considered
way.
East Coast. Yes, it is. It's the Mason-Dixon line of cities of between Midwest, because Ohio is literally 20 minutes away, and so is West Virginia. Regardless, what I'm getting at here is that
Stay on target.
anytime somebody was like, "Oh, it's a very artsy," I'm out. It's a cerebral. I'm out. Like, give me the mainstream movies. And Martin Scorsese's movies are made friggin' stream, and they're awesome. The Irishman is gonna be sick. Goodfellas is my top 3 favorite freaking movies.
But I think-
so is Casino. So is all of his movies he's ever done.
Why do you
they
love
are
those movies so
fucking
much?
good.
Why?
Silence?
But what do you love about those
What's
movies?
silence?
Exactly.
I've never seen that. I'm just talking about the good ones.
Why do you love Goodfellas and why do you love Godfather?
Because it's a mainstream. What happens in Goodfellas? Starts out good, goes bad, ends good-ish. I guess they all die, and he's alive. He's in.
But what do you
enough.
like about? Do you like the character? Like, do you like the action sequences? Like, what is it that you love so much about those movies?
It's an all-around great original. I mean, it's a
Okay.
great tale of a biopic or whatever. What I'm getting at here.
But Josh, I think that he's getting at the same thing you're getting
Yes.
at. He's
Yeah.
not talking about what you're referring to as art funk. Is that
No, art house.
Art house funking
Blows.
So he's not talking about art house funking blows movies. He's talking about Goodfellas. He's saying that these movies, these movies that are initially made to not be sequel films, that they're supposed to be one story, are not getting the attention, and that people aren't going to be able to make these when there are these massive franchises
Right.
going on.
And-
So I think that he agrees with you. I don't think he's sitting here thinking all those little small $50,000 indie budgets have no shot. I think he's thinking the movies that I came up making are not getting the burn.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
you
now
mentioned it
we're-
earlier, Roxy, because every time a big franchise movie opens on a Thursday, whether it's Endgame this year, it's going to happen with Star Wars Episode 9. You go to the ArcLight and it's like 10 screens are showing this movie.
Yep.
And then there's 2 screens that are showing like a random indie film.
Right.
Right? Like that, because they know that these movies are going to
gotta
make
make
money.
money.
That's a
I
theater
get it.
D that
I know.
has 12 screens.
Right.
A lot of them don't have 12
Exactly.
screens.
And so that's an example of what is happening and what people are getting frustrated at, because Martin Scorsese mentions all these directors that we love, the Wes Andersons of the world, the Catherine Bigelows, Paul Thomas Anderson. These are movies that are usually got nominated for Oscars for a reason, right? And not a lot of people watch them
here's
because
the other-
marketing always goes to Avengers movies.
It's fine. Give them the marketing. What I'm saying is there are so many damn other options now, and all these directors complain, well, it's not on the big screen, it's bull. I watch most of the movies on a computer screen or a television. Okay?
But
I do.
A genuine question. Who pissed in your cereal? Like,
Sorry.
but who are
Like,
you?
I'm tired of people complaining that these movies are too big and
So
he
the
just got a
audience.
movie made on Netflix.
So you're upset with Marty?
Yeah.
Well, that's part of his point, though. His point was, and I think it really, and I love that everybody's getting something different from this article. Like, really, I think that's important for the conversation moving forward. What I got from it is that original films that Marty wants to make, he brings up Wes Anderson, he brings up, these are certain people getting through the cracks, getting through the system and making their art, right? And getting it out there on some kind of platform. He goes to Netflix so he can make The Irishman. I feel like this op-ed was an indictment of studio Hollywood. Focus groups, safe, marketing, masses. That's what he's like railing against. And I think it travels all the way down to someone like me who I feel like when I say, hey, I have a original screenplay that's big budgeted, because I love myself some blockbuster movies, but I have an original screenplay, big budget. An agent last week told me, not interested, it's not based on any brand.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I can't get a fucking movie that I've been working on for 2 years that I believe in and I'm passionate about because it can't get through the system because it's not based on a comic book, or something else.
And we talked about it yesterday. They will make another Terminator movie, even though this one failed, before they make original content
Right.
because they trust a franchise.
So
brand.
I look at his colleagues that he came up with, like Spielberg, who made a bunch of really original blockbuster movies like an E.T., like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but we're gone from that now. I think if Spielberg wanted to make an E.T. or a Close Encounters today, they would say no because it's not based on an existing
Or they
property.
would say yes because he's a legendary director, but they might
Let's
not
put him
say
back
that
there.
to the new Spielbergs of the
The new
world, right?
correct.
Those are the people that aren't getting the opportunity. Martin Scorsese isn't only speaking for himself. I mean, I'm sure he's speaking because he wants to find new artists. He wants to find the new Paul Thomas Anderson, the new Ari
always
Aster's.
be new artists.
But they're not
always...
getting the opportunity because
Nah,
of all
yes,
these
Yes,
Oh,
they
my
are.
God.
Whatever.
There's tons of TV.
Now
they can learn
it's streaming.
Yeah,
You know,
good.
here's
That's
what
what's
I'm-
stream. They don't have
here's
to, they don't
what
have to
I'm
get funding
really-
for a $30,000 indie. Who cares?
Here's what I'm really interested in, because I've heard our guest who's coming on today, Roland Emmerich, talk
Yes.
about this, because you think of him as a big blockbuster director,
Yeah.
but he also has found qualms and issues with this comic book and franchise type movie. So I'm super curious what he thinks about it, but I also want to go to the booth. Cody, thoughts on this, because you're a big comic book movie fan as well.
I don't really care too much, but the chat
You're not in
is,
Josh's camp?
So the chat's kind of losing their minds right now.
How come? What's
It's
going on?
funny. Just kind of a lot of all caps directed towards Josh.
Yeah.
What about what?
Is it good or
Just telling you to calm down. Just relax. It's okay.
It's fine. I'm
gonna be okay.
I'm so tired of arguing this stupid Martin Scorsese thing. I don't care. Make good movies and release them on whatever platform you can. I don't need to go spend $30 at a movie theater to enjoy a funking movie.
But no matter how much you yell, and I love how you yell, these films are not getting the same opportunities to be watched as these other movies. That's
a billion
definitely.
people have Netflix. They can't watch The Irishman?
I'm not talking about The Irishman. I'm talking about the other movies he's talking about. I'm talking about all these other directors, the ones that end up in one screen for like 2 weeks because they want to put
Maybe it wasn't
Endgame
very
and
good.
10 other ones. No, it was
did-
fucking.
maybe it didn't have the same word of mouth that it had.
Josh,
maybe the
I'm-
movie wasn't good.
What's
It
the
only had
deal
2
with that?
weeks.
Josh, I am curious because what Mark just said as a writer and being frustrated, and that's why he kind of is siding with Marty. You're also a writer, and you.
Yeah, but I don't really write screenplays. I write TV shows.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I wrote one.
TV
but
shows.
Two. I
Was
would
it
much
an
rather-
original idea?
It's based off a true story.
It's a great point, though, that you bring up TV because I think there feels like there's more opportunity in streaming television series.
Right.
It feels like there's more chances being taken for Hulu's and Netflix, and we're getting Apple Plus, and or is it Apple? Apple whatever, and Disney Plus. Well, Disney Plus
It's
is
Apple
It's
Plus.
Apple
too.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it?
It went in
Good.
doubt.
Somebody
Put a plus
go.
or a
Just
max.
put a plus
on
or
it.
max,
Yeah.
exactly.
All access, any one of those
Right,
words,
right.
just like throw something on there.
Right.
I thought that
Or
this
YouTube Red.
op-ed,
Whoops-a-daisy.
Yeah.
that didn't even work for that. I thought that this op-ed was going to put the nice little bow on the Martin Scorsese situation.
Right.
Based off of this dialogue here today, it feels as if it not only did not put a bow on it, but opened up the floodgates even more. I'm curious, do you guys think that this is the start of another month of Martin Scorsese talk?
Yes.
I mean, I think
God,
he
I'm glad
made.
I'm leaving Thursday.
You'll be so missed. You'll be so missed.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm kidding.
He's so happy.
No,
Wash.
I'm not happy I'm leaving Thursday. I will miss you guys terribly. I'm so over this Martin Scorsese argument. Like, I'm so down the road as like, if you make a good movie, my 2 favorite movies of the year, Peanut Butter Effing Falcon and Jojo Rabbit. Hands down. And then Good Boys.
But the only reason you knew about those movies is because of the industry you work in.
Correct.
Like a lot of people, the general audience, which is what you're saying
There's
is
a
you,
lot of
the
market-
use of the world, don't know that these movies exist because they only receive marketing for the big budget movies.
Darina, go to my question, please. Do you think that this is the start or stop of this
I
conversation?
mean, I think that the fact that it comes from himself and he specifically said, people are going to say whatever they want about or interpret my comments, no matter what. I think that's true. That could keep going. But the fact that he's specifically explaining, I don't hate these movies. I just think that this is my problem with how it's affecting the filmmaking industry, right? I think that it's very clear that that's the point he's making. So if people actually read the article and not just the headline, I think the conversation could finally
I read
stop.
the whole
But
damn article. Is that
Yeah.
a shot at me?
No, God, no. Because to my
It was a
original
shot at
point,
it was a shot at people
I
that
think
keep the
it's
conversation
it's
Riley
not
says
going to
God
end.
no, but we don't know. She didn't say it.
Actually, I don't. I'm not in
No,
their
no,
brain,
no.
so yeah.
No.
No, I think that people, like I said at the top of this, is that people are going to just see Marvel and they're going to jump on that without reading the article. I think that there is a lot of goodness in that article, and that you can have your opinion, Josh. I think absolutely you got something from it because you fucking read the article. I just sat here
Yes.
watching you read it, so you have an opinion that is educated on this. I think that what people are going to glom onto is they're going to cherry pick little things, and this thing is going to continue to be talked about for a while.
But it's going to be continued to be talked about because it's still an issue in the industry.
Have you
It
guys
has been an issue for a while.
Yes.